Well, in this video, we are going to factor this polynomial. As soon as you see that there are 4 terms, you should be thinking this is probably going to be a grouping problem. Alright, of course you check to see if there is a common factor. There is no common factor, so we commence with the grouping. So the way the grouping works is we'll take these first 2 terms, treat that as its own problem. We'll take these last 2 terms, treat that as its own problem. So the first 2, there's a common factor now. These are both divisible by 9, and I see the x squared in common, so 9x squared is the GCF. So let's look at it this way. We will pull out the common factor of 9x squared. Okay, and now we need to see what's going to be left inside the parentheses. Now, sometimes it's helpful when you're trying to picture what goes on the inside. Take your GCF and divide by it. So I'm dividing by 9x squared here and here. Okay, some students like to think of it this way. The 9's cancel out. X to the 3rd power divided by x squared is x. Over here we have negative 27 divided by 9. That is going to be negative 3. And then the x squared cancels out completely, so there won't be anything there. So I've got that. Now, this next part is a little bit tricky. Students make mistakes here. The easiest thing to do is to go ahead and think about the invisible number in front of the x here. There's an invisible 1. And that's what we're going to use as the common factor. So I'm going to pull out this negative 1 as a common factor, and then I'm going to think about what would be inside parentheses if I created parentheses. And again, if it helps you to think of it as a division problem, alright, then you could think of it as dividing both of these by negative 1. Well, negative 1x divided by negative 1 would be positive x. And positive 3 divided by negative 1 would be negative 3. Think about the distributive property if it helps. If I took this negative 1 and distributed, negative 1 times x would get me back to negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 3 would give me positive 3. Okay, so now I have this. Notice how the parentheses are the same. That means that x minus 3 is a common factor. And I will take that common factor and pull it out front. I will factor it out the way I always do whenever I have a common factor. Now if I take these away, then what will be left behind? Well, that's going to leave behind the blue parts, 9x squared minus 1. Now often at this step we're finished, we're done. But this time, no, we're not done, because the blue part can be factored further. This happens to be the difference of 2 squares. So we have to keep going and factor this as the difference of 2 squares, specifically 3x plus 1 times 3x minus 1. That's how this factors down. Alright, the x minus 3, we will just bring that down and include that in our answer. So now this is the final answer. So let's hunt for it. So I see x minus 3, 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1. Okay, so the answer is A.